All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD program, and in particular the AWD1100 C# programming class, I'm doing a series of lectures, at least for now, on every chapter to kind of reinforce the stuff that we're going over. So far, I've gone through the first 5, and I guess I've done 4 lectures. I didn't do the first chapter because it was just a lot of overview. Just a minute. All right, sorry about that. My clock was going in the background. So, chapter 1, I did not do I did not create a program. I just did a very short 6-minute or so lecture. But I did a program for chapter 2 on a console application for a console payroll application. In chapter 3, I went back and did the same thing basically as a Windows Forms app, and then I refined it in 4, 5, and 6, or 4 and 5. I did say I was going to go back and do another one for part 5. I'm going to do that, but just not right now. I'm going to go on to chapter 6, which is on how to code methods and event handlers. So I'd like to jump into that right now. And as you can see, we have in there how to code methods, how to call methods, how to use optional parameters, how to use named arguments, how to use factoring to create a new method, and when and how to pass arguments and by reference and by value. I don't know how much new is going to be in here in this chapter because I'm not really going to talk about events and delegates. We did that in class. But I will go through and look at it. I know that one thing I planned on doing and I talked about doing, and that was going in here, and when you take a look, one thing that you'll notice is I've only got 2 global variables, total gross pay and total employees, and they probably didn't have to be global, so maybe we'll pull those out. And in here, I've got hours worked, hourly rate, etc. You can see all these. But there is a lot of work that's actually being done in here. All right. And there might be some repetition work, etc. So what I'd like to do is to break this out and start putting some of this in its own routines. Okay. Now, when we look at this, okay, the first thing, I do have exit in its own routine. So I've done that from day 1. And this is code I gave students first week of class. That code brings up a dialog, a message box dialog, and it says the code on there is, do you really want to exit the program now? And the title is exit now. There's a yes button and a no button, and the icon's a question. If you click the yes button, you can see this in the if statement in line 269, the application will exit, and it's a typical exit. So if I run this, and I'm going to try to move this way out of the way, and I'm just going to click exit, and I'm going to move this. So what do we have here? Message box, that's this. Do you really want to exit the program? That's this. Exit now, that's this. Message box buttons, yes, no, that's this. And message box icon question, that's this. Now notice there's no else on here. So if I click no right now, virtually nothing happens, whereas if I click yes, the program does what's referred to typically as a natural exit. So no, nothing happened. Do it again and click yes. Boom, the program ends. All right, let's just look at a couple of the other ones here. If I call this clear all method, it calls first clear individual employee info. Well, where is that? That's right here. So let's move this, just so we can put it near one another so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. All right. So if you look right here, what do we have? Well, we've got, as it says, and I tried to put comments in here, probably not as many as I should have, but I tried to put some comments in here. And this one says, this method is called when the clear all button is clicked. It will first call the clear out individual employee info. So what does that do? This button, clear all, first clears these 5 fields. It clears the first name field, it clears the last name field, it clears the hours worked field, it clears the hourly rate field, and it clears the gross pay field. It also resets the focus here. But it also, so this routine also calls clear out final totals, which clears out this field and this field. So there's really 8 actions happening. Clear this, clear this, clear this, clear this, clear this, put the focus here, clear this, and clear this. Now, if I just click the clear button, it just calls the first of those routines. Clear in, out the individual employee stuff. So it just does these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, clearing them all out, and then setting the focus here. So what I'm doing, basically, what I'm trying to do with you right here is letting you know what's going on when I'm going through each one of these. So let's go to calculate. So calculate here. I've got hours worked, I've got hourly rate, I've got gross pay. Hopefully those are by their names you understand what they are. Hours worked, of course, the number of hours you worked. Hourly rate, of course, the number of hours your hourly rate. And gross pay will be some version of hours worked times hourly rate. There's a little more to it, of course, if you've got overtime. Emp info, I really don't need that anymore, but I put it in there. I'm just going to keep it in there. It grabs a bunch of information and it puts it together so that we're able to go in and create our message box. And keep going is our Boolean variable. So as you can see, this calls, this says if keep going, okay? Well, I've already set it equal to true here, so this should always be true. If it's not, for some goofy reason, I'm just returning. But if it is true, I'm telling you to try to validate the field that's in the hours worked routine. So try to validate this field. Now, what I probably should have done first is this. And again, what I'm about to do, I don't have to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right? So I'm going to come in here and, these, even with these keep going things, I'm going to start and put another couple keep goings in here. Why? If keep going, and I'm going to create 2 variables right here. I'm going to have a string that's called def first, and I'm going to set it equal to UFN. Okay, and what the heck is that? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's talk about it. See if we can figure out what it is. All right. If there's no first name, I'm going to put in UFN, which is unknown first name. So that'll be my default first name if one is not entered. And I'm also going to make another one here that's called def last. Probably have already guessed, but it's going to be set to ULN for unknown last name. Okay, so I've got a default for my first name and a default for my last name. All right. Now, what I should do right here is write another routine. Okay, so I'm going to call this, I'm going to say here, I'm just going to call, I'm going to say, oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to say keep going, equal validate first name. Now I'm going to get an error right now because I don't have a first name. Okay, but I'm going to pass into that. In fact, I don't have to pass in anything, to be honest with you. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, So this is called validate first name. I'm going to come down to the bottom here. I'm going to write it right underneath this routine, which is very long, as you can see right now. But I'm going to put it right here. So this routine validates that there is a value in the first name field. It returns true, if there is a value, and false if there is not. Okay? So, private bool, validate first name, and I'm going to say in here, if text box first name dot text equal nothing, meaning that it's empty, then I'm going to return false. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to return true. And I'll put a message here that says valid first name. Now, when I say valid first name, I could put 126 in there and it thinks that's the first name. All right. In fact, what I'm going to do too is I want to make sure there's no blank in there. So I'm going to say dot trim. Okay. And that's just going to remove any empty spaces that might be in there. So I set keep going then at the top to right here. If it comes back as true, so this will now be else return. And I'm going to have to make some changes down below, but it's fine. All right. So if keep going, validate first name. If not, return. All right. So keep going, validate first name. Okay. If it still keep going, then there was something in the first name field, in the text box first name field. All right. Let's see. So validate the last name. So call method to validate the text box last name field. So if that's true, keep going. Equals validate last name. I'm going to get an error because that doesn't exist right now, but that's okay. All right. If I get down and I've got an else here, what does that mean? There was nothing entered in the text box first name field. So put in the default name of UFN, which stands for unknown first name. All right, so if that's the case, let's see. Well, what I'm thinking is keep going, return false. I don't really want it to stop running here though. So I'm going to say text box first name. It's a little weird the way I'm going to do this probably. Dot text equals unknown first name. Isn't that what I called it? Def first. But it is valid. Okay, so let's see. So either way here, I also want to call keep going equal valid right there. So I guess what I'll do is I'll say let's see, whether it to return true or false, I want to do this. So even if it returned false, so if it returned false, I'm doing this, as always, off the top of my head, be that good or bad. There was nothing entered in there, so put that in, okay? But I want keep going to be set to true now, because I want to keep going. So keep going equal true. All right? So now I can come down here and I can say just the same thing I did up here. Keep going equal validate last name. Again, I might get that error because I didn't write this yet, which is totally fine. All right, and I'm going to grab this same code that I've got here. And if it's not, there was nothing entered in the last name field. So put a default of value in the review LN, which stands for unknown last name. All right. Now let's find that routine that we just wrote, the unknown first name, right here, and I'm going to copy the entire thing. So there's the validate first name. Here's the validate last name. Okay, in the last name field. So if there's nothing in the last name field, return false, otherwise return true, because it was a valid last name. All right. So now what I'm doing in here is I've got my def first and my def last. That's all fine. So if this is not true, then I want to set my last name to def last and set keep going to true. All right, let's probably easier to show you what I've done so far. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put nothing in the first name field and nothing in the last name field. I should actually get a message here, and hopefully these are going to fill in with UFN and ULN. And exactly what happened. Now, maybe UFN and ULN aren't good names. Maybe I should just say unknown. Because if I do that, I can change this to just def name. And then just make this unknown. Maybe that's a little bit cleaner. I don't know. And I'll change this to default name. Then I don't need two of these. Okay, this is just def name now. So this becomes def name. And down here as well, it becomes def name. Now when I run this, and again I'm going to put nothing in these, now it should say unknown and unknown in both of these. See that? Now is that a good thing or a bad thing? As I often say in class, it's a thing. So, all right, so I'm down here. I've now validated that there's something in the first name and that there is something in the last name. Now, before I go on, I could have come in here and written one routine and passed it in either the first name or the last name. I could have done that too. Maybe that would have been cleaner. Okay, but I am checking two different things. Here I'm checking the first name. Here I'm checking the last name. So sometimes, to me, in my opinion, for whatever that is or is not worth, sometimes it makes more sense to maybe write an extra routine and maybe have more code just because it makes it clearer to understand exactly what you're doing. Again, that's my opinion that you may or may not agree with. All right, so I'm moving down in here. And yeah, I still do have code, but notice all I'm doing is checking conditions. All right, and I am setting things based on those conditions. So now I'm down to here. And I've now validated the last name. So I validated the first name, I validated the last name. So now I'm down to here. That's what I want. And keep going in this case. I'm always going to hit this. I'm always going to do this because either I put nothing in there, so it was replaced with unknown, or I put something in there and it was valid. Again, if I put 312 and 826 in for those values, it'll think 312 is the first name and 826 is the last name. I could check for numeric. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. That's fine. That would just be more code to put in, and I don't feel like doing that. So now I'm coming in here and I'm validating that this is numeric. All right. And I'm saying if it's true, do this. And then I'm validating the hours. So as you can see, I do have some code in here. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to minimize the code. And I'm going to actually do something special with this. I'm going to do something special with this when I get down to the bottom. I want to wait until that time. All right. So I know I've got a valid hours work field here because when I tried to validate it, it returned true. So I can do the convert without any worry of it blowing up. And then I can tell it to validate the hours worked range. And that's to make sure it's between 0 and 84. If this keep going right here, return false, that means that I did not have a valid value in for hours worked. Either it was non-numeric or it was blank. So in that case, I print out a message, clear out the field, and return. All right. So this is the return. Maybe I should put these in. Maybe this would help. I don't know. I'm going to put in here, should always be true. See line 47 above. Now I have to change that comment. I hate putting line numbers in there like that just in case I would change something later. All right. And I'm going to say here, oops, I don't know what I just did. Oh, there we go. Oh, it doesn't like it when you put on a line by itself right here. When you put, if I start hitting tab, it just doesn't like that on an if or on an else usually. So I'll just put it in like this. Whoops. How about that way? See what it does. Z. Let's see. All right, so should never be hit. I'm going to say here, should never be hit. All right, so this if right here, this one means validate first name returned false. This means and I didn't put any else in here. See that? Okay, because I think before I had just an else return. fact, I think I could do the same thing right there. Else return. All right. Again, this should never be hit. I don't think. It was already set previously. Okay. All right. So this here means validate last name return false. Oh, I lost something here. My goodness. All right. Okay, now I'm back to where I should be. So if validate last name return true, this should also be an else return. And technically, when I come down to here, well, it'll be fine. Keep going is true. Yeah, that'll work fine. Again, I might not be doing it the cleanest way possible, but it should still be fine. Now, put the default in. Okay. This should always be hit right here. That one should always be hit. That's why I'm adding some extra comments in here. So we want to verify that the hours worked that we put in was numeric. Okay. And again, this other one should never be hit. So this one should never be hit. All right, so now I'm coming down to here. If this returned true, then in this case, validate is numeric return true. Okay. Here means validate is numeric. Oops, I don't want to do that. Return false. All right. Again, this means validate is numeric return true. And this one means validate is numeric return false. Now you may find my logic a bit convoluted, and if you do, understandable. You should rewrite this so that it makes sense to you. All right? But I'm trying to do it in what I consider to be the most intuitive way possible. That might not mean you agree with that. All right? So again, let's see. I want to double check my comments here. So should always be hit, should never be hit. It was numeric. It's not numeric. Means this is the range check here. So what do we call that? validate hours worked range. There, return false. All right. This is the numeric check. So again, that's this. And that's this. Okay. And this is the other numeric, is the other range check. So this is hourly rate, not hours worked anymore. Whoops, sorry. So here that means it returned false. All right, now I am doing a lot of work in here, okay? Be that good or bad. So what can I change here? Well, let's see. I could write a routine right here. I could take all of this information out and say, write a routine called update totals. Okay. So we're going to say here, update valid employee totals. Again, I'll get an error because that has not been written. So there's our validates, calculates, put it about right here. So private void, I know it was called update something, I don't remember what, so I'm going to have to fix that and paste that in here. So that's okay, I'll fix it right now. That's it. There. This should all go away now. Well, I'm getting errors because it doesn't know these things exist. Okay, we'll fix that. So what do we need? We need gross pay, hours worked, and hourly rate. Not a problem. We'll pass those in. All right, so where are we here? We need hours worked. We need hourly rate. And we need gross pay. Okay? Now, gross pay up till this point has not been set. Up here, we gave it a value of 0, I believe. Way up here, way the hay up here. See that? But we've never given it a value. I'm going to see if we can get this to work here by putting in here out gross pay. All right? So we're calling update valid employee totals, hours worked, and what is it telling us here? None of them take 3 arguments. Well, then we'll have to fix that. All right? So that's down here. And we've got a decimal, which is hours worked. And I'm going to run out of room, so I'm going to put it on the next line. Another decimal, which is hourly rate. And an out decimal for gross pay. And they all went away. Okay. I'm not sure I'm going to keep if the gross pay is going to work like this, but we're going to see. All right. The point is, I've taken all that stuff and replaced it, put it in its own routine and replaced it with a call here. Finally, I'm going to call build valid employee message box. And I'm going to get errors from this. I can just tell you that I am, because I have to pass information into that too. But we'll fix that in just a moment. Okay, that's fine. So, private build valid employee message box. Build valid employee message box. Okay, and I'm going to put that in here, and I'm going to get errors. I can just tell you that right now. So let's see. Message box. Totals. That looks good. Must have a return type. Okay, that's fine. Void. Okay, that should go away, but it needs this emp info thing. Well, we've got to create emp info, and that's good because now emp info doesn't have to be in here anymore. Nope. Emp info can be defined down here. And notice all my errors went away except these three. So we'll fix those right now. So that means that when we call this routine, again, we have to pass in hours worked. Oopsie. Oh, what are you doing? Hopefully I didn't do what I think I might have done. Come on. All right, so I'm going to have to, call this and pass in hours worked, hourly rate, and gross pay. It doesn't have to be an out because it's already been set. All right, so that all those errors should have went away. Does not exist in the current context. Build valid employee message box. Oh, because that shouldn't be in there. There we go. Go away. Build valid employee message box. So let's check on that one. It says no overloaded method that takes 3 arguments. Well, then we've got to put those 3 arguments in. So decimal hours worked. Again, I'll put this on a new line. Decimal hourly rate and decimal gross pay. That error should be gone from there now. There it is, it's gone. The only thing I don't like is this thing right here, this validate hourly rate. Somehow I should have moved it up more. So that's got to go right underneath the validate hours worked. So right there. Here we go. So that's fixed. All right. So now I've basically gone through, and as much as I think I can, I've come in and tried to, I have tried to modularize this program. Now there's one more thing I want to do. Let's pretend for a second, and we're going to go through this in a later chapter, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add what's called a menu strip. Boom, boom. Now I've got a menu. And I'm going to put in here, how about this? We'll put in 4 options, same as our buttons. Calculate, clear, clear all, make that one word, and exit. So now I've got a menu in here. All right, and the first thing I want to do is I want to change the names of these. Why? Because it calls it calculate tool strip menu item. I don't like that. So I'm going to change this to get rid of the tool strip and call it calculate menu item. The next one I'm going to call clear menu item. The next one I'm going to call clear all menu item. And the last one I'm going to call exit menu item. Now, there is no code currently for any of these, okay? But before I put in the code, which is going to be very simple, I'm first going to come to my calculate button, and everything I have in here, and I mean everything from the beginning of the routine to the end routine, still is pretty long, as you can see. But I'm grabbing every bit of it down to the bottom. And I'm going to just call calculate. Okay, no, not calculate gross pay. I'm just going to call calculate. Like that. And then underneath that, I'm going to put in private void calculate, and I'm going to take and paste in everything I just put in there. Everything. Now, it's possible this could give me an error. It didn't, but it's possible. And it's possible this won't work. So why did I do that? I'm going to show you right now. Remember, that going back to this, now when I click my calculate button, I'm calling calculate. When I click my clear button, I'm calling clear out individual employee info. When I call my clear all, I'm calling clear out, calling these two things. And finally, when I call exit, I'm now put that in here, but I'm going to remove that as well. And I'm going to call exit program now or not. Kind of a silly name, but you get what's going on in here. Private void exit program now or not. Okay, so why did I do that? Well, let's start with this one. Let's start, and we'll do it in the right order. So I'm going to double click my calculate. There's that menu item. I'm going to double click my clear. There's that menu item. I'm going to double click my clear all. There's that menu item. And I'm going to double click my exit, and there's that menu item. So I'm going to call this exit program or not, and I'm going to call that from here. Then in my clear all, I'm going to call my clear out individual employee info and my clear out final totals. And in my clear menu item, I'm just going to call clear out individual info. Finally, from my calculate here, I'm going to call calculate. All right. Now, you may or may not have gotten anything out of what I just did, but the key takeaway here is now that I'm calling this stuff, this should still work this, non-numeric. Oh, that's for this. That's fine. That's good. It put unknown in both these. That's good. Let's see if we run it, if it works. So I put my name in there. I didn't put anything in there. So 40, 10, enter, 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 doesn't like something. Okay, well, it's breaking, but we'll still fix it. Clear works. If I do put my name in, okay, it's busting on the calculate stuff for some reason. And I actually think I know why, but the point of this whole thing is, let me exit and let me start it again. Now notice if I go to exit, I can now exit from my menu. I now have a working menu in here. All right, and I'm going to come in here and put in this, and I'm going to put in this, and I'm going to put in this and this, and you know there's bad stuff in here, but I'm going to click clear all from here. That works. And I'm going to click clear. Notice that works, and clear all should now clear out that one. Okay, so I still have a mistake in my calculate routine. All right, and I think, well, let's take a look. So right now, if I click calculate, it is giving me that stuff. But notice if I keep coming in here and I fill it in, 40, 10, oops, 10, and I click calculate again, it's not working. So something is goofed up there. We'll have to fix that. All right, and we will fix that. Now, but before we do, one more thing, just looking at this made me think of, and that is, and I should have done this on the last one, this should be a read-only field. Because the total number of employees, I shouldn't be allowed to have that be set. So I should go to read-only, change that to true, and since I made the colors of the other ones that darker green, on here, I should make that the darker green as well. I'm going to save this. I want to do one more thing. I want to go back to the previous program because, again, that one should also be a read-only. And if I find a mistake, I should fix the mistake when I find it. And I want to change the color of that to that darker yellow. So save all. Now I can get rid of that. So the error right now in my code is in here. Now I'm calling calculate, which should be doing all the stuff. Something isn't working. All right. Now, again, the reason that I did all that, was because what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to call this stuff from the menu as well. All right, so there are mistakes in here. So I'm going to have to see, I'm going to have to go look right now, see if I can figure out what the hey the mistake is. All right, so it comes in here. We're declaring hours worked, hourly rate, gross pay, keep going, etc. All right, so if keep going, should always be true. See already, see line 57 above, it isn't 57 anymore. It's now 51. I'm just going to say see line above. All right, so we should be calling validate first name. Otherwise, we should just return. If validate first name return false, we should set it to the default. Set keep going to true. Okay. And then we're saying keep going equal validate the last name. If it returned false, we set it equal to the default, but we set this to true. Otherwise, oh, we don't want to return here. We want to keep going. So if keep going here, return true, we just want to go down and do this. I think that might be what the problem is. We'll see. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I should be able to come down now and do this. Get rid of all this. Anytime you can save on a little bit of code, you're best off doing that. So, all right. false. So then we come in and we're calling validate is numeric. If that returned true, we can convert and call validate hours range. If that returned false, we're going to print our message box, clear everything out, and return. That's good. If validate hours worked, the range was returned true. We know that we've got something valid in there. So now we want to validate the hourly rate. Otherwise, we had an invalid hours worked. So we're printing out a message, clearing that, returning. That looks good. All right. Here it returned true, so we can convert. Keep going is to validate the hourly range. Hourly rate, yeah, that looks right. Otherwise, it returned false. Message, clear, clear, return. All right, so we're down to here. If our hourly rate range returned true, now everything is valid, so we update our totals. We build our message box. Otherwise, we give an error message. Now that actually makes sense to me, and let's run through this. First name, last name, Numeric, okay, it's worked, hourly rate. So decimal out. I don't know. I was thinking before that I might have to return the gross pay. And I can do that. I have absolutely no problem doing that. I just have to return that, make that a double. So that may be what's going wrong. I don't know yet. But let's try it again, Jeff. Oops. Oh, well, that looks better. All right, let's clear that one. So we've got one for 400. Let's try somebody with some overtime to see if that works. So 50 and 10, that should be 550. Here, 2 and 950. Looks good. All right, let's try to clear everything. That works. Let's just put in something random. Let's leave that off. Let's put in 40. 40. Let's hit calculate and put in unknown. That's good. 1600. That's good. Let's put in nothing here and hello here. And let's put in, I don't know, 60 and 60. And let's try to do it from here. Unknown hello, 60, 60, 4200. Looks to me like it's working. So now I've got a program that will actually work, and it will run either from the desktop, or from the buttons or from the menu options. All right, now rather than you watching me do this, I'm going to go and copy this and use this for my next one for Chapter 7. But yeah, I don't think you have to really watch me do that. So, all right, I'll be back then in just a couple minutes.